This is my R33 4 doors for more doors. As you can see, it looks quite terrible at the moment. And we aim to change that with as little money as possible and maximum effort. Bit of history on the car. I've had this thing for maybe a year and a half. In that time, I've gone through 4 RB25s. Can't afford to keep doing that. So we are switching to a Barra. Now, I've seen a couple of people start on their 33 Barra swaps on YouTube, but no one's actually completed their 33 Barra swap on YouTube. I don't know if they've actually completed them or not. I'll try and run through everything we're doing on this car. So for people at home who are considering something similar, they can use this video as a reference, I guess, or the series. I won't lie, I've already started on the swap. The car's currently full of parts required. Not to say I've completed it. There is still a fair bit to go. A lot of fab work, a lot of little bits and pieces. It's always the last 10% of a build, which takes 90% of the time anyway. But for today, because it looks so terrible, and I woke up one day and decided that the bay needs to change colors, that's what we're going to tackle. I've already done a lot of the boring stuff. So all the sanding, when I say sanding, I mean Scotch Brighting is done. It's masked for the most part. I'm only going to use rattle cans on this engine bay, mostly because if I were to paint it with a gun, I couldn't do it in a fancy nice shop like this. So I've gone out yesterday, I bought these nice rattle cans. This is a Porsche GT metallic silver in a can. Obviously, when you're painting anything with a rattle can, you've got to manage expectations, and I'm not expecting a show car out of this. But if we get to finish that, cleans up the bay a little bit, I'm more than happy with that. It is raining today. It is quite cold. It is chilly. It is not optimal painting conditions. It's quite terrible. Also, this place has a tin roof. So anytime it rains, I'm not sure how the audio is going to come out. So just hope for the best. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hopefully I'm speaking loud enough. We'll see how we go. So I've got the bay about as masked as I'm going to get it. If this were any car but this, I'd probably put a little bit more effort into covering some of the holes and stuff for the interior and the cross member and steering rack. But if you follow along with the build, you probably you'll see why I haven't bothered too much with fuel lines, steering rack and whatnot. That all gets swapped out further down the track. So it's pretty cold in Melbourne today, and even as a general practice, when you're spraying with rattle cans, you should always heat the can up a little bit, unless it's like 30 degrees where you are. The best way to do that is with a bucket of boiling water. But I don't have boiling water here today, so we're just using a MAPP gas. Easy. Always move the can and the MAPP gas, don't heat it in one spot. Alright, so that's staying the same temperature when I'm shaking it, so I know it's ready and it's primed, locked and loaded. I haven't even wiped the bay down, honestly. This is the most half-assed thing
I've even put cardboard down properly. Yep, that's going to cover a lot, dude.
Yeah, I'm painting one side, then I move the cardboard and I paint the other side.
I want my floor to be silver.
It's fine. It'll look better than what it currently is.
Shut up, man.
Oh yeah. Remove foreign objects. It's like the shadow of the
good.
My hand's going to be so silver by the end of this. Alright, so we've got the first coat down now. I've gone relatively light, but also not really. Because I've only got 2 rattle cans to do the whole bay, which sounds like a bit, it actually isn't. So in this first coat, I've gone mostly for coverage. than anything. When painting metallics, it's pretty important to do a control coat after you're all said and done with your coverage. So what I mean when I say control coat is a light dust, and what this does is it allows the metal flakes in the paint to sort of stand up a bit when they dry. So if you go real heavy in some spots, you'll end up with mottle, which I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but essentially it just looks like little dark spots here and there, and that's really the main thing you're trying to avoid when laying down a metallic base coat. So this second can, we're just going to go over on the more visible spots a little harder, and then hopefully just dust it all off towards the end, and that should allow us to lay down our clear and still retain a decent finish. Alright, so the base coat's all flashed off now, so we're going to go ahead and start laying down some clear. 2 coats. First coat's going to be a little lighter, and then the second coat we're going to go heavier. Alright, so it's the next day and the bay is dry enough at this point that I'm pretty comfortable working in it. So I've already gone ahead and chucked in the brake master and the clutch master. We did get a bit of overspray on the cross member, which we're retaining, so I've just hit that with like a rattle can again. So the bay is dry enough, I'm going to chuck the motor back in. Getting the Barra in the 33 is actually pretty easy. I've just gone for the RB factory engine mounts, and then we've spaced our cross member down 16mm as well. So yeah, we'll go ahead and chuck the motor back in the car now, and you can see how it all fits up in there. Now that we've got the motor back in the car, you can see there's 2 issues that you immediately run into with such a large and beautiful engine in here. First up, there is a lot less space in here for a cooling solution. I'm going to be running a R33 radiator, but I'm going to have to cut it up and make it work. So I'll show you that process, how we're going to tackle that issue. The second issue that you run into is for the exhaust. So the Barra is a 4-litre high comp engine. That means it needs to flow a lot of air. So ideally we want at least a 3.5-inch exhaust on this for the power that we plan on pushing. The issue you run into is that the steering rack sits too close to the bell housing. From what I know, all-wheel drive power steering racks allow more clearance, so we're currently on the hunt for one of those. So first up, I'm going to be chucking in the engine harness. So this is an SY2 harness. To keep the build costs low, I'm just running the factory ECU. This one's out of an FG, I believe. Luckily, if you plan on doing a Barra swap in basically anything, your boy Bill Hooton's got you hooked up. He does these lovely standalone patch harnesses. This is real nice work. I'm also running his fuse box as part of his standalone package. I can sort of show you, it's mounted up here in the glove box at the moment. Basically, thanks to Bill, all the wiring in the car is pretty tidy, so we're happy with that. I'll go ahead and chuck this in, and yeah. Alright, so the engine loom's back in. It's just running down through the factory holes. It looks not great right now. Once you've got the intake manifold and everything on, it's actually pretty tucked, so I'm pretty happy just running it like that. For ease of the conversion, I'm still retaining the factory body loom in the car and fuse box, so I've just got to reassemble that now. I've got to run it all the way through here, box that has our side indicators, front indicators, lights, everything like that. Unfortunately, the fuse box isn't the nicest thing to look at in the engine bay, but I'm not the biggest fan of wiring, so I'm just going to leave it there for now. Maybe at a later date, if we want to clean up the bay, we'll relocate everything. For now, I'm just going to tuck it all. Alright, so I'm probably going to wrap this one here. We've got the motor in the car, and we've got the bay painted with the body loom run on the driver's side and the engine loom run through the factory position there. I feel like that's a decent accomplishment for a weekend. I was contemplating chucking the manifolds back on, but I don't have gaskets for them just yet, so I'm going to have to order some during the week. Hopefully they come by next weekend and we can chuck those back on. That's probably going to be the next episode, chucking the manifolds back on, so that should be pretty good. And then we'll probably start modifying the radiator. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully it wasn't too boring.